Happy International Women's Day, or what's left of it anyway. So, you may have heard this morning in Florida something called the Don't Say Gay bill passed, despite heavy opposition from constituents and demonstrations at the Florida Capitol. Democrats tried to revise as much as possible at the last minute, but it did end up passing Tuesday morning. The law is meant to ban the teaching of anything resembling gender studies for grades K through 3, and anyone who's ever attended school in the United States and has any common sense whatsoever is going to immediately recognize the flaw in that, because gender studies is not a thing in elementary school. In the same way that critical race theory is not a thing in elementary school. But Florida went ahead and tried to ban that too. And the precedent set is if parents don't like what their kids are being taught in school, they can sue the school, which immediately puts a chilling effect on the education system as a whole, because straight up the bottom line here is kids shouldn't have to be afraid of learning about any topic, and teachers shouldn't have to be afraid of teaching their students. But I digress, for today is a day of celebration. A hateful bill that targets transgender youth is once again making its way through the Arizona legislature. The Save Women's Sports Act was first introduced by the Arizona House in February of 2020, where it ended up being held in the Senate, which happens a lot in Arizona. It is safe to assume that the inspiration for this bill stemmed from a lawsuit in Connecticut in which 3 athletes and their parents sued the school after losing to a competitor whose gender was then called into question as part of the lawsuit. The suit was filed on behalf of the athletes by Alliance Defending Freedom. And the common thread between the Save Women's Sports Act in Arizona and the lawsuit in Connecticut is this conservative nonprofit group by the name of Alliance Defending Freedom. Now, before I go into detail, I have prepared a brief disclaimer for liability purposes. Here goes. Everything I'm about to share about ADF is my personal opinion, unless stated otherwise. So, in my view, ADF is a hate group masquerading as legal advocates for the Christian right. Their work informs legislation and case law in Arizona and across the United States. It is a fact that the ADF is designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. I acknowledge that people have mixed feelings about the SPLC. It is a fact that the ADF defended themselves in the Wall Street Journal and the USA Today, claiming that they were smeared by SPLC. It is my view that they may go out of their way to defend themselves against anyone who associates them with their hate designation through the SPLC. So, in an effort to cover my ass, I will be as clear as possible, separating my views from facts. Okay? We good? Moving on. The Save Women's Sports Act has been revived in the Arizona legislature, this time in the Senate as SB 1165. And tomorrow, Wednesday, March 9th, it goes before the House Rules and Judiciary Committees for a final vote to see if it makes its way through. Once the governor signs it into law, parents and students would be able to sue their school if sports teams opt for inclusion, because students may claim harm from a violation of the Save Women's Sports Act. If that sounds vague, it's because it is. Anyone could call into question the gender of any competitor for any reason. So, back in February 2020, when the original Save Women's Sports Act didn't make it past the Senate, they got rid of the doctor's note requirement and revived the standard for establishing a violation of federal gender discrimination protections. That means they were able to use Title IX protections against gender discrimination in school to make the argument against inclusion in sports. And all this under the guise of supposedly protecting women, which is an insult to all women, this International Women's Day, not just in Arizona. Alliance Defending Freedom does not speak for me, nor do they speak for women, and I certainly don't need their protection. When looking over and comparing legislation from 2020 to the one that goes before the committee tomorrow, it appears that anything suggesting hormones or chromosomes has been omitted, The legislation has instead been amended to include terminology that focuses on establishing personal injury under federal Title IX gender discrimination protections when it comes to education. So, not only is this cruel and insulting, but the Arizona legislature is pushing it through hastily at a time when the rest of the world is distracted by political turmoil and humanitarian crises in Europe, the likes of which we have not seen since the end of World War II. It's all horrifying, and frankly, the representatives of my state should be ashamed. The lack of support for this bill is astounding. If you look it up in the Arizona State Government Bill Tracking website database, it will show you that the vast majority of people are opposed to this bill. The last time I checked, anyway, it was around 68% of those reporting. So, not only is the Arizona legislature taking the opportunity to attack its own citizens while the world is distracted, but they're doing it against their own constituents' wishes. Make of that what you will. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please contact members of the Arizona House Judicial and Rules Committees by phone, because in my experience, they do not respond to email, or they just straight up reject your emails. Also, hit up Representative Nancy Bartow while you're at it. She is a member of the Senate, but she is the primary sponsor of this hateful legislation. I'll provide links to their contact info wherever I can, wherever you're listening to this. Thanks again, and please take care. Oh yeah, happy International Women's Day.